In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Viewers, this time we have a very important topic to discuss, and that is about domestic violence. Domestic violence against women. Some viewers might think that what relevance this topic has with our series on Islam. There is a verse in Quran which some circles believe that it may promote domestic violence against women. What we are referring to domestic violence against women, in the simplest words, some people might just say wife beating. So before going any further, I have with me Professor Dr. Mesbah Moosavi. I'll request him to let us know which verse are we talking about.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Thank you for the question. The verse that we are referring to is in Surah Nisa, or chapter 34, verse number 4. فَعَظُوهُنَّ وَاهْجُرُهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ وَاضْرِبُوهُنَّ. That's the verse that we are referring to.
So looking at this verse, we have heard so many arguments for, against, explanations even. So how would you, what's your point of view? How would you build your argument?
When we deal with scripture, a religion, or a school of thought, we have to take into consideration two things, which is very important to come to an authentic understanding of that religion or a school of thought. The first point is not to take a text out of the context. If it take a text out of the context, then we would have trouble in understanding of any religion, any scripture. Just to give you, I give our viewers a concrete example. When we read the Bible and we want to take a text out of the context, it says that you may, and says you must, kill your wife in some circumstances, and not just a soft killing. You have to stone her to death. Actually, I have the reference with me in the Bible, Holy Bible, in Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 20. It says, if the charge is true and evidence of the girl's virginity is not found, they shall bring the girl of the entrance of her father's house, and here her townsmen shall stone her to death. So in this verse, it says if you don't have proof of her virginity, then you must stone her to death. So that was one example of taking a text out of the context. So if we want to understand a text, first we have to put it in the context. That's the first point. The second point, in every religion, in every school of thought, there are some fundamental principles which supersedes all the laws, all the bylaws. You cannot come to an authentic understanding of a religion without consideration of those fundamental principles and teachings. One of the most important fundamental principles in Islam, according to Holy Quran, is about the principle of justice. We have a verse in the Quran in Surah Hadid, or chapter Iron. It says, إِنَّا أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. We have sent our messengers and we have given them books in order that people establish justice. So establishment of social justice in society is one of the most fundamental reason for revelation. If you ask Prophet Muhammad, if you ask Quran, why you have come from God to us, what is your mission? The Quran and the true authentic Bible, according to what we read in the Quran, the fundamental reason for all revelation. If God had sent 124,000 messengers, if you have Abraham, Noah, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon them, all of them have come to give one fundamental mission, a message to people: establish social justice. I don't want to say that that's exclusively the only reason for revelation. For sure, there are some other reasons, like, calling people toward God, toward monotheism. But one of the fundamental reasons is to establish social justice.
So basically you're saying that religion is composed of many different aspects, but one of the foundations and cornerstones of religion, specifically Islam, because we believe that it has not changed, Quran has not changed ever since. So it is justice.
That's
so
right.
Islam's foundation is justice. If we find, if you allow me to deduce from that, so if we find anything that's contradictory to this fundamental principle, what would you say about that?
So if something is contradictory to the fundamental principle, it means that it has nothing to do with that religion. So if you want to understand that religion, if you want to understand that scripture, the first point that you have to see, is it in harmony with the fundamental teaching? Is it in harmony with the fundamental principle? Without which we cannot have an authentic understanding of that religion and that text.
Now, thank you very much. Now, if we come back to our topic, when talking about domestic violence against women, as women are referred to as softer or fairer, so they are physically weaker than men, as it is thought. So how come that Quran might mention beating or violence against the weaker sex?
By your question, we must question our question. What do I mean? Is that if the fundamental principle of Islam and religion is to fight with oppression and to fight with injustice, it means that that religion, and Islam in particular that we are talking about, cannot teach domestic violence.
So you are leaving behind a big question now. So we have this verse here, and you're building a foundation where you're saying that Islam has justice as its fundamental principle, and anything that contradicts it should have to be looked into. It may be interpreted incorrectly. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. I want to say what many people understand of this verse. It has nothing to do with the spirit of Islam. So that's why we are here, to say what this verse means for people and for believers. To add something about the principle that Islam is taking into consideration, Islam is a religion that does not allow any kind of abuse to anyone, physical or even verbal. When you come to verbal abuse, you cannot find any civil law that is taking someone to the court because he or she insulted someone. It's not considered a crime. It's not considered a sin.
Yeah, that often falls under the right of freedom of speech. You can say anything against anybody.
Yes. But when you come to Quran, even verbal abuse, gossiping, insulting, anything is big sin, and Muslims should be very careful when they are talking about other people. So a religion that even doesn't allow to insult someone, to verbally abuse someone, how is going to allow beating someone, especially if that person is your wife? So one more point that Brother Sajid we should take into consideration is that woman, according to Islam, is not someone who is going to serve men. Women are not second class citizens. They are not here to serve men, so if they don't do their duties, then men are going to fight with them. according to Holy Quran, in Surah Rum, chapter Rum, which is chapter 30, verse 21, it says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. In this verse explicitly says that God has created from the same entity male and female, and they are to bring tranquility and peace, and God has put love and mercy and affections among you.
Is this ayah referring to, is this ayah talking to men or women?
It's talking to all people, male and female. Azwaj is the plural of zawj, and zawj in Arabic is for partner, whether male or female. So God is addressing all people, male and female, and says, from the same thing, from the same entity that you have been created, your partner, whether male or female, has been created. And their partners have been created to bring this peace and love and harmony. So what I'm going to emphasize is that men have not been created as master of women in order that women should serve them.
So you said that it's rather the other way around, that men might serve women. So would you elaborate on that? What are women's responsibilities in a conjugal relationship, in a married relationship?
Thank you. Just before I answer this question, I would like just to mention something, Brother Sajid, that what we have in Islam, that women have not been created for men. They are independent entity and independent human beings. These are not something that we can find in other books. In the Bible, you will find different things. In the Bible, I guess I have the address here in Corinthians chapter I have the address here, yes. In Corinthians chapter 11, verse 9, verse 8 and 9, says, for man didn't come from woman, but woman from man, which is in contradiction to Islam. Then in verse 9, nor was man created for woman, but women for man. We don't have such a concept in Islam. This is why woman has no obligations toward her husband, except one thing that I will mention at the end of the discussion. But men has many, many obligations toward their wives. Men should prepare home, a comfortable life, bring income, pay the bills, pay mortgage or rent, and pay for the food, change the baby, feed the baby. All are responsibilities of men and not women. If it is the case, if woman has no obligation except one issue that we have to keep it at the end, if has no obligation toward the husband, there is no point of argument. So man is going to fight with her husband about his rights. He doesn't have any rights against his wife except one issue. If it is the case that woman has no obligations toward her husband, so we can say men have been created to serve God, and in the meantime to serve women to prepare a comfortable life for them.